that's a common catalyst. It's either that people have made a whole lot of money, and the more money they've made, the more anxiety has built around that money, and the fear of fucking it up is what debilitates people into doing nothing, or often leads them off a cliff doing stupid things because they're so focused on not failing. It's what they inevitably end up guiding themselves to. Or on the flip side, their business, their personal finances are a cash-eating monster. They're making money, but they just don't know where the bloody hell it's going.
Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems, and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose, and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey towards freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this. Hey guys, welcome to Uncovered. I have an absolutely amazing man here. I absolutely love this guy. I stalked him for about 6 months before we had a chat, and I'm just super excited to have a chat with you, Jackson, because you're one of these people that everyone needs to learn from, in my opinion. So welcome, Jackson, to Uncovered.
Thanks for having me, mate.
So
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, really looking forward to chatting to you and helping the listeners get a little bit of insight into how you tick, where you come from, what you're about. So Jackson, I'd love to get a bit of background about, who is Jackson? What's he about? What's his past, and where is he now at the moment?
For sure, mate. Yeah, so I'm Jackson Millan. I'm also known as the Wealth Mentor. I've been involved in the wealth and business strategy space for about 15 years now. And I started in this space because I wanted to help people like my parents. My mum and dad were both business owners. Mum was a hairdresser. She tried very hard to scale her own salon. And dad was a tradie. He was a bit of a jack of all trades. He tried lots of different trade businesses, but never really stuck to anything long enough to see success. But I remember as a kid watching them work, and they were working their asses off, trying to get ahead, trying to make money, and they were very good tradespeople. They were very good at what they did, but they were always terrible with money, and we never seemed to have enough of it. And I remember them telling me as a kid, they said, Jackson, if you want to be successful in this world, you need to work hard. I always asked them, I'm like, well, I was a bit of a smart ass, and I'm like, well, hey, if you're working so hard, why isn't that working out for you? And what I come to realize in my later years is that they knew how to work hard, but they didn't know how to make money work hard for them. So I started, as I left school, I started training to become a financial advisor. And because I thought that was going to be the best way for me to help people like my parents. And I very quickly discovered that the financial advice industry was only interested in two things. It was interested in making really wealthy people more wealthy. And it was interested in selling people like my parents shitty commission-based products to make a buck and prey on their lack of understanding and education. And I hated it. Now, I never wanted to help rich people get richer, and I never wanted to take advantage of people like my parents. So I very quickly binned the term financial advisor, and I started creating what we call a wealth coach, where we essentially help people, who are typically business owners, understand the language of money, take control and get in the driver's seat for themselves financially, and actually guide themselves with confidence and clarity to create financial freedom for themselves and their families. And we're very happy to say we've helped our clients build over $1.5 billion in combined wealth.
Now that's amazing, right? And I remember chatting to you, and I think a lot of people have this trouble in business. My mum's the same, hairdresser actually. Mum's a hairdresser. And she's built a really good business and has been really busy, but she's stuck in a business. She's never been able, she's always worked hard, works a 50-hour work week, doesn't stop, has no end to end in sight. So I think what she's going to end up doing is having a heart attack on the floor, setting someone's hair. That's probably going to be her life, right? So where I am right now, I'm in a coast house that she bought, and the only reason she bought it was because of my wife Anya, right? Anya wanted to have a place where my daughter's down here, and this place is amazing. Every time she comes in, she looks at the view and she goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe I live here," right?
Amazing.
Simply because of the attitude, of money and that sort of thing. So I'd love you to tell the listeners, what is it that you notice in the people who start off with your service, and how do they think about money, and what are they doing around it that you can clearly see because you've been an expert in this space for so long?
Yeah, it probably starts before they start working with us, Jason, to be honest. Most people are shit scared about money, and because they don't understand it. And it's no wonder why we get along so well, because you came to me almost paralyzed by fear because you'd made money and didn't know what to do with it. And that's a common catalyst. It's either that people have made a whole lot of money, and the more money they've made, the more anxiety has built around that money. And the fear of fucking it up is what debilitates people into doing nothing, or often leads them off a cliff doing stupid things because they're so focused on not failing. It's what they inevitably end up guiding themselves to. Or on the flip side, their business, their personal finances are a cash eating monster. They're making money, but they just don't know where the bloody hell it's going. And this comes down to really three things, mate. One, most people don't have a plan. No one's been taught how to plan. And we have not been equipped with the appropriate tools to be able to define what it is that we actually want, because most people are deathly afraid to ask themselves what they want out of the fear of falling short. Secondly, they don't know how to reverse engineer because they don't think that they're money people. They think it's complicated and they need to hire financial advisors and expensive accountants and fiduciaries and money managers to do the number crunching for them. And this is supported by the fact that they just don't have the cash flow to do the things that they know they should be doing in the volume that they should be doing it. People know they should be buying property. They know they should be getting into the share market. They know they should be putting money into their super, but they just don't know what the next best step is.
Yeah, and I think this can be really challenging, isn't it? Because I know coming into Aureus, I didn't really know anything, right? I've been in business since 2001. And I'm older than you, Jackson. This is not right. I'm older than you. And I came in and it felt like, here is this wise old man, but you're younger than me, right? Giving me advice on something I absolutely had no idea about. And I'm still trying to figure it out. And I think because, as you said right in the beginning, that a lot of financial advisors are actually looking to soak you, that was what I was so scared of having another experience where I've had quite a few coaches and that sort of thing try and support me on this journey of, scaling and building my business. And I was burnt out. I was burnt out of actually having someone fail me again. But really, I was failing myself because I didn't know how to educate. So I was, naturally blaming that coach. That person didn't get me there. But really, it was my own lack of want or desire to actually learn about money, which was my biggest problem. And would you agree that this is quite often systemic for the business?
100%. Exactly. Look, let me give you an analogy here for the listeners. Let's assume that you had the choice between learning how to drive a car to be able to get yourself around, or hire a chauffeur. And in hiring the chauffeur, but not having a driver's license and not having any practical experience behind the wheel, you are now hamstrung and reliant on paying that chauffeur, and that chauffeur being reliable and showing up on time and maintaining the car and driving you around and taking you where you need to go. But the problem is that even if the chauffeur is a really good guy or girl, is super reliable, you have no other choice or fallback plan but to rely on them or somebody else like them. The alternative here is that you learn how to drive. get your driver's license. You have a means of transport. You have the choice whether or not you drive. And being in that position, you either say, hey, cool, I'm just going to drive myself around everywhere because I'm going to pocket the cash. I'm probably going to be, I'm in the driver's seat so I can control my own destiny, not put my life in somebody else's hands. Or say, hey, I could drive, but I don't necessarily enjoy it. I'd prefer to sit in the back and scroll Facebook or listen to Jason's podcast. And I choose to outsource my driving to a chauffeur. And this is exactly what we do with people around their money. We teach them how to drive so they're not reliant on having a chauffeur, the financial advisor, the money manager, who they are now solely reliant on to manage their money. But we give them the ability to outsource just the parts of their money management that either they're not excited about, that they have no interest in, or that they believe can be better done by somebody who is an expert in that space. But at least they have enough knowledge to hold that person accountable and not just take them at face value.
Yeah, I absolutely love this because, look, when I came in, I had shares. I'm not really sure which shares they're in. I'm not sure exactly how it looks, to be honest. All I know is every month I'm putting money into the share market and it's actually making a difference for my future. And I know that what I put in place, I basically did as I was told. Right. So I just went, Sal, who works for us, he said, set up this profit first. I was like, okay. Next time I saw him, profit first was in. I said, what's next? And he said, what, you've done it? And I was like, yeah, I just am not too smart. So I just got to do as I'm told because it keeps me. I knew that I was in a place, and now I've got all this cash sitting in a whole bunch of different accounts that I've never had before. And I don't have any credit cards. Because you told me to get rid of those. So I got rid of those. I just did as I was told. And you gave me logic and reason. And I think this is really, really essential, is that you told me that 12% more is spent if you have a credit card, simply because of the psychology. And I was like, well, I don't want that. So I just went, right, snip, done. And I've never thought about worrying about having anything on credit ever again. And so you run the logic over us, you give us a plan, you give us a focus that we can be in control of. And then if we've got a question, we ask the experts and the experts give us the advice. And then our job is to actually follow that advice and know that we can actually come to you to get that support and leverage your skill set. And I think this is where you guys are so different from the average bear in this space, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the big part here and the important point that you just touched on, Jason, is that what we do is we teach people how to think and we teach them how to ask the right questions. Because when we boil all of this down and we try and make finance as simple as we possibly can, there are really only three parts to a wealth plan, a financial roadmap. One, it's having a process or a system for goal setting and getting clear on what it is that you're actually working towards. Two, there is a cash flow operating system, both in your business and in your household, that allows you to predictably increase your top line revenue, control your expenses, and maximize surplus, because wealth is not created if there is no surplus. And three, we have an opportunity evaluator that allows us to decide what we do with that surplus. Do we save it and build cash? Do we pay down debt, or do we build wealth? Or all three of those things. And if you know how to ask questions and evaluate those three aspects of your financial life, you're set. There's nothing else.
So out of those three things that you would choose, which one, like if someone was starting out, which one would you be suggesting that they would pick? Or is it more complex than that?
Look, it is more complex. You really need all of it. However, the first part that you need to get right is the goal setting and the road mapping. Because the problem is that for the vast majority of people, and look, I've had the pleasure of working with thousands of clients, presenting to probably more than tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands over the years. And 90% or more of people don't know what they want. Like, this might seem a little bit sadistic, but the amount of people that I've brought to tears from just asking them the simple question, what do you want? Like, what would you like? And just allowing them a few minutes to give themselves the space, to give themselves permission to go, fuck, I don't even know what I want. They're on autopilot. They've been conditioned to be a functioning member of society, to be a cog in the machine. And when we step back from that, give ourselves permission to even just stop and reflect and ask ourselves what we want. And it takes time. Like sometimes you returned with silence. I know I certainly was when I first started doing this exercise. I call this exiting the matrix. And when you exit the matrix and you get spat out of the machine, you're frail and you're weak and there's not a lot there. And then it's through continuing to provide that space that what does your mind do when it gives itself permission? It starts filling it with what you really want. Not all of the societal pressure, bullshit, superficial rubbish that you're not really interested in. Because when we boil it down, most people don't want to drive a sports car. Most people don't want to live in a beachfront mansion. Most people don't want to fly in private jets. Most people don't want to have scantily clad women hanging off them every waking moment of the day.
Yeah.
Most people want like things that are fundamentally important to them.
Yeah. And I think this is really essential. I think your job and my job, what we do is exactly the same. Fundamentally, you're focusing on wealth and I'm focusing on who you need to become to be the best person you can be. And look, essentially, we're looking for happiness. We don't know what that is half the time because society has told us the rules around that. Have that really nice house, make sure you have that car, keep up with the Joneses in quotes, and then everything will be okay. And my question to you around this is that there's two things here. Do you think unworthiness is the reason why there's a Homer Simpson bubble here, that people don't really have an idea of what they want? And when you see the people who have achieved what they want, are they in that same place? Do they sort of have a hole as well, like the same problem on two different extremes?
Definitely. I think there's two factors to this. There's people who are stuck in survival, and the situations that we learn to survive, our survival ultimately depends upon. And this is why we see people who get in this constant vicious cycle of being in shitty relationships or attracting the same types of shitty clients that don't value them and don't pay on time. The world tends to serve you the same stuff because your brain has created a subconscious pathway that it has survived these situations before. So it's trying to create a position of homeostasis where it guides you back to these same situations. So you need to elevate yourself from this survival if you want to get to a position of being able to thrive. I've been there and been caught in many vicious cycles and worked through that thinking. The second part to this is that we need to define as human beings the difference between enough and extra.
Okay.
This is why chasing happiness, in my experience, can be a double-edged sword, particularly if you are an ambitious entrepreneur. Because happiness, and once again, I'm not an expert in this space. This is a lot through my own personal journey. I find that happiness can often become the addiction to chasing dopamine. And what does dopamine want? It wants more dopamine. And we get caught in this race of always chasing the next thing and never giving ourselves permission to be grateful for what we've already achieved. Because like, how often do entrepreneurs just achieve something and they go, yeah, like next thing. And like someone pulls them up and says, hey, like you've just achieved this amazing thing. And you're like, no, don't worry about it. It's the next thing. So the big thing for me is that it's about defining enough. What is enough? And then choosing to pursue extra. Now, for me, enough is peace.
Yeah.
Before happiness comes peace.
Yeah.
And then once you've got peace, everything else is a choice.
I love that. It's so true, isn't it? Now, in life, we have experiences, and this is where the world comes in. I spoke to you about this around personal development, that quite often people choose personal development when they've had a hangover. Something's happened, something's broken, and then they come and find me. And you pointed out something really interesting with me just a couple of weeks ago around helping people who are not necessarily in that space. And this is actually called health prevention, that you're actually putting the effort in beforehand. But the trouble is, and I'd love to talk to you about this, Jackson, is that when people are in that space and they're okay, they quite often don't seek the help. And it's only when something goes awry, like I did with you, I sought the help because I basically had a 100K month and I didn't know what to do with it. And I was just like, what do I do here? I can't cope. And you could see I wasn't showboating myself. There was nothing going, oh my God, I've had this month. I was scared, literally scared. And you were looking at me and I was like, oh, this is normal. You could see that I would felt like I was alone in this picture, but you've seen this so many times. And I was just like, geez, this is just, he's dealt with this. And I felt completely safe. And I think what we've got to learn to be able to do is get ourselves in that position where we can actually find out what is going to give us that true meaning. What do you think?
I agree with that completely. But you're exactly right that most people don't think like that. Most people spend their entire lives moving away from pain.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. If you hurt yourself, like let's say you took a needle and you stuck it in your finger, right? And you go, oh shit, that hurts. And as soon as you pull that needle out, it's immediate relief.
Yeah.
It's instantaneous. You're immersed in the emotion, immersed in that feeling. And as soon as that's relieved, pressure goes away.
Yeah.
Whereas to transition to moving towards pleasure, it is an aspirational and sometimes an esoteric and disconnected concept, because you need to actually step out of your current position of comfort to take a risk. And the reason is, and when we talk about behavioral finance, it has been studied and proven that the emotions that you feel as a result of a financial loss are twice as significant as a financial gain.
Wow.
This is why when the market falls and people take their money out of the market, sell their shares or their property and put it into cash, almost always they keep it there. Because they've taken away the pain, they've hemorrhaged the bleeding. And then to get their money back into the market, they need to find twice as much significance and reason to justify that action. And the problem is they're not. They're viewing it as if each decision carries equal weight. And the amount of effort that they put into taking their money out of the market, they're trying to put an equal amount of effort to put their money back in, and they fall below the action threshold. So what we need to do is we need to program ourselves to move towards pleasure, but it takes twice the amount of work.
That makes sense. When I think about a lot of the academy members, it's a standard thing is people don't even realize they're running away. And this is the same thing with like high-end entrepreneurs that have chatted to me. I've been in groups of people and they know I've done personal development and they're sort of business coaches, and then they have a meltdown. They go, "Hey, Jay, do you mind if I have a bit of a chat to you?" And then they have a chat.
Help me.
and then I'm just like, oh, they're exactly the same, right?
Exactly.
Their ability to make money is actually an away from pain experience as opposed to going to pleasure experience. Even though you don't think about it, you see the great car, the house, and all the trimmings that people have. But the challenge is they're not happy. Yeah. So the biggest issue that we've got to get to is actually making sure that we can turn that clock around, and we're not built like that. And I think that the biggest thing that I see is a lot of people are built on negativity without knowing, right? And so we put a face on that where everything is okay because we're built and we're designed to show the face. But how do we actually create that experience in an autonomous way to actually start moving towards something that's actually going to make us feel safer, more peaceful, as you said, and that we have more choice in that piece? How do you think that we're designed to do that, especially because money is such a big catalyst to be able to provide more choice, isn't it?
Exactly right. And I think it's about defining and quantifying it. In order for this to happen, we need to have a significant come to Jesus moment. And look, although we start in our positioning and our clients, we talk more to the aspirational people who are in a position where they are moving towards pleasure. The vast majority of our clients come to us moving away from pain.
Yeah.
And we do really enjoy working with them because we can get them results really quickly. They've got an increased emphasis on taking action because they want the results. And it works out really well. We get lots of momentum and we help them make that shift. But what is really important here is that we understand what's at stake. The problem with most people, and the reason why they don't emphasize getting their finances in order, is that one, they think that they've got more urgent problems. So they're like, I'll deal with that next year or in 5 years' times or whatever. Two, they're fearful, they just bury their head in the sand. Or three, they already think it's too late. Like the pain associated with resolving my issues is already going to be far too great. Why even bother? I'm just going to live in a realm of ignorant bliss. And the problem is that the sooner you start, the easier it is, because this is a compounding exercise. It's a snowballing exercise. And everyone needs a come to Jesus moment. We need to quantify the gap. If you want choices, if you want to be able to have the home by the beach, have it paid off, if you want to send your kids to a really good school, if you want passive income, if you want to be able to do the hobbies, the experiences, the holidays, drive the car that you want to drive, we need to be able to quantify how much wealth you actually need to have those choices. And what we need to work out is, what's your current trajectory? If you keep doing what you're doing already, where is that going to get you? And then if we implement some really smart, straightforward, simple strategies, how much better could you be? And then it's just an optimization and improvement process. We rinse, repeat, improve, and optimize.
So rinse, repeat, remove, and optimize. So when you're not an expert, right, and you're in that place, what do you suggest the listeners start with? Like, how does someone who maybe can't afford your service and they're listening to this right now, how does someone who doesn't really know how to build something, where do they start?
Well, the great thing is that I give away all of my IP for free. So you can jump into our free Facebook group, you can grab a copy of my best-selling books, and you can go through it. You need to get educated. The thing is that there will be nobody on this earth that loves your money as much as you do, that will care for your money as much as you do. And you cannot afford to be in the passenger seat when it comes to one of the most important things in your entire life, that is going to give you the freedom and opportunities to have choice. Because with wealth comes choice. It gives you the choice of how you buy back your time, and then how you choose to invest that time in the things that you are passionate about. Without money, you don't own your time.
I think this is really,
so you need to learn.
Isn't it? And look, one thing I think is so essential. I had someone actually call me out about my my motives just last week, right? And this person wants to build a business, and I said, my motive is to make money from you, as well as get you really equipped to get where you want to go, and all of these things. And she looked, and I was like, yes, because if I don't make money from you, you're not going to be able to create your own money-making machine. And she's just like, oh, it's like a penny drops. It's like people have no idea what investment is, because I've invested thousands and thousands of dollars on my business. Some really shit decisions, and I wish I had you guys beforehand, because I'm always thinking, when someone says, hey, I want to buy something, like that part of me that can be a bit impulsive, I should buy this thing. And then I go, what would Jackson think right now? I won't buy that. Right? That's the first thing I do, is I'm thinking about what Jackson would say to me if I bought that thing. And so someone just asked me about something that I bought a year ago and said whether I wanted to invest in that further. And all I thought was Jackson, no. That's where I went. I said, okay, it's a Jackson no. So sorry, bud, I'm not interested. Right? Simply because
Love that.
I wanted to make sure that I was going to make a Jackson-based decision rather than a Jason-based decision. And it was an impulsive decision that I made a year ago that didn't work. So I didn't want to do that again. And so sometimes in business I need to do that thing to make that money without actually thinking decision baselines. And I think we can throw money away, or we can feel like this person's just out to make money. And all businesses are there for that. They're out to make money.
Correct.
Listeners, listen to this. We are out to make money from you. It doesn't mean we're bad people, because we're going to turn your life. I know I can turn someone's life completely around. I know that. You know you can turn someone's life completely around the way that your business works. We both know this, don't we?
Exactly. Yeah. And this is the thing. We're in a capitalistic system. Even charities make profit, guys. Like, this is the thing. It's just that they reinvest that profit into the cause. So if your business is not making profit, is not rewarding you for your time, effort, expertise, and does not provide you with enough surplus means to be able to create wealth and achieve financial freedom, what is the point?
Exactly. And
There is that.
There's no point, right? And this is why, if you don't want to actually, if you've got this idea of having a business, or you're in business, really focus on what Jackson's saying right now, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be doing a 9-to-5 job, right? Most people don't want to do this. They don't want to be running this 9-to-5 job. And I remember having my first meltdown about 2 years into my working life. And I was just like, is this what it's going to be? I didn't want to be in the 9-to-5 space. And I was just like, I can't do this. I can't. So I created my own business pretty quickly after getting out of university, simply because I just didn't want to be that 9-to-5 person. And it's easy.
And it's so important. Yeah, I think the problem is that you can't create a 9-to-5 in a business. It's just, it's more hours, it's more effort, it's more risk. So unless you're being compensated for that risk, you may as well go get a job.
That's exactly right. And that's why it's so important for business owners to know this, right? So if you're a business owner listening to this and you're listening to Jackson, you know exactly what we're talking about. It's people in jobs who don't, right? You're in this place where you know your decision making could mean that you're not going to be eating, right? So you've got to be thinking that way. And then when you get to a position like Jackson is getting all his businesses to get towards, is to be able to have that choice, to have good holidays, to be able to bring that money in, to be able to know that you can actually have less time in your business eventually, once you plug the gaps and the holes that are in place in your business. Would you agree?
I agree. And look, there's a system for it. It doesn't happen by mistake or by luck. Business is a system. Sure, there's an element of luck in it, but once you've proven what you do, like if you are truly an expert in what you do, you can deliver exceptional client outcomes, then growing a business should be systematic. And I'm a believer in the idea of creating a lifestyle business, because if you're passionate about what you do, which most experts are, it's about doing it at a rate that you could do forever. Because I have no intention to ever retire. And the idea of retirement is just, it just is foreign, because why would I ever do something that I want to retire from?
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's crazy. No. So my idea of retirement or financial freedom is having the financial means outside of my business where I have the freedom to choose what I do with my time. So either within or outside of my control. If I no longer want to or can no longer work, then I have the financial means to support my lifestyle and what I want to do. So I have 4 things that I work towards with my clients. 1, Create a business that produces $400,000 a year or more of profit. And this is not just on paper, this is real tangible cash. 2, create a business that allows you to work 4 days a week. 3, create a business that allows you to work 44 weeks a year. Because if you can work 4 days a week and take 2 weeks off every quarter, then what more could you want? And then 4, build $4 million in net wealth.
I love that. And that's a trajectory that we all want to get to, working with Aureus, and it's an amazing process. I want to go a little bit further with you with this, Jackson. I want to talk to you about legacy, and I love the type of person that you are, because you've got this thing that maybe a lot of listeners don't know about, that have a look at his Facebook. You're an animal lover, aren't you? So I'd really love
yes,
what legacy is for you, and what meaning that has for you, and what's your big thinking future-wise for this planet, and especially the animals, because I've never seen someone love animals so much as you and Anna, your partner. So tell us about that.
Yeah, what's really interesting is that from when I was a kid, my first job that I ever wanted was a vet. And I wanted to be a vet up until about year 10. And then I had a come to Jesus moment where a teacher sat me down and said, Jackson, like, you're not committed enough to school to get the kind of marks that you need to get into veterinary science. It's just not going to happen for you. So I'm kind of like, oh shit, well, there goes that idea. My lifelong ambition is just dead. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take another path. I'm going to get just stupidly wealthy. And then I'm going to go back to university. I'm going to study to be a vet. And then I'm going to open up a clinic where I can provide veterinary services for free. That was my big picture idea for my life. And then I asked my dad for advice, because obviously through the whole journey that I watched for them, I was always interested in helping people like my parents, but I just didn't really know how. And Dad always said to me, hey, if you want to make money, you got to be around money. So I took that really literally, and that's how I ended up where I am. But I've always been passionate about animals. So I've never had a paternal instinct to want to have kids. It was just never something that was on the radar for me. And as I've got older, I'm 33 now, I've come to realize that for many people, legacy is their kids.
Yeah.
Their legacy is the next generation, and how they pass their essence and their values and everything onto that next generation. And for me, legacy is about how I'm remembered in the world, and what is remembered about me, and how are people impacted when I'm no longer here. So the 2 things that I'm truly passionate about is animals. So we've created an animal sanctuary here up in far north Queensland that we're expanding and adopt left, right, and centre. But we want to create a retreat centre that facilitates and creates an environment where entrepreneurs can come with their family, and we can start teaching people how to create true generational wealth. Because it is my belief that if we can create enough wealth that the next generation and the generation thereafter, even 3 generations ahead, so 100 years, let's call it, if we can create enough wealth where those future generations can actively choose what they do with their lives, they can fix the real problems that we have in this world, not just feel like they've got to go and get a job to put food on the table. So that's my master plan.
I think this is so important, listeners, that you have this thing where you get a person like Jackson who you think, oh, you're going to meet him for the first time, he's going to soak you, he's going to take something from you. And this is what people think about with people who are wealth experts. The first thing that people do is they think you are going to be an expense for them, right? That's the first thing that they do. They don't think, hey, Jackson's going to be an investment for you. And I think what I'm hearing is this idea of actually creating an investment for not only yourself, and I think about this, that's the same sort of thinking that I have with the work that I do, is giving people that focus. So then they're looking at a far bigger vision. You see, Jackson's vision is 3 generations beyond his death. It's sort of looking beyond his lifespan. And this is where the big players come into space, into their space, because they're not thinking their life. They're thinking of what is going to happen after their life. And, when I think about this as a guy, I rode my bike down the west coast of America with my ex-partner, and there were these huge redwood forests. And I read this plaque, and the guy who bought up this area, there's 1% of the redwood forest left only because of this one guy. One guy bought turned it into national park, and otherwise we'd have no old growth redwood forest left in the world. 1% is left thanks to one human, right? And so when I think about you, Jackson, I believe that you are that one human that's going to make an impact. And I reckon, and I'm hoping, and I'm going to challenge you to this, that I want to know that there's going to be a plaque in your name, with your name on it, with what you have done for this planet. So you said this, and I'm calling you on this. I really want you to make this what you say, because I know one of the things I love about you is you're really true to your word. And that's what makes me feel really safe and secure in your hands. And that attitude is what we need. We need people like you who are going to be able to stand out, and there'll be a plaque in Jackson Millan's name that he made a difference on this world.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think this is essential, everyone, is that you meet, there are people you meet, and then there are people that you meet who are Jackson based. And there's very few of them in the world who have a certain intention and a certain way and a certain attitude that's beyond themselves. He makes it about him, and he makes it about change. It's so interrelated and mixed that you get the opportunity to know that there are certain people in this world that are going to make an impact. And if you get the opportunity to meet someone like Jackson, learn, just sit and listen, because I sit, and your business partner, Sam, I just sort of sit there and I just sort of want to be quiet so I can actually hear and absorb as much as I can from you guys. The whole lot of you are like this. And listeners, how do we find out about you, Jackson? Like, what's the easiest way to connect in with what you do, how you do it?
Yep. So add me on Facebook. Search for me, Jackson Millan. I'm always getting up to crazy antics on our animal sanctuary and sharing hopefully great knowledge about wealth and financial freedom for business owners. And of course, if you want to reach out and have a conversation about how we might be able to help, then feel free to jump onto our website, aureusfinancial.com.au, or check out my personal website, wealth-mentor.com.au, and would love to support any way we can.
Yeah, thank you, Jackson, for jumping on. So if you like this podcast, I'd love it if you could like, share it, review it, whatever you're meant to do with this stuff. I'm not the tech savvy guy. I just know that people will get a lot of support and care from this man. And I believe that if every business needs an Aureus to back it. And thank you, Jackson, so much for giving me your time today, and the listeners your time today. I really appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure, mate.
Thanks so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate your time, because time is so valuable. What we'd love you guys to do, if you like this podcast, if you could share it with your friends, and also our website address for the podcast is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademypodcast.com. Our website is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademy.com. We have a free Facebook group called Wellness Leadership Evolution, so search for that. I'd love it if you could add me as a friend on Facebook. I don't bite, so add me as a friend. And if you want some help and you would really like some support from us in the Academy, jump in. We have a process. You can do a break-in call to connect in with us. We do small courses. We have lots of things that we share. So we'd love the opportunity to give you a chance to change your life and turn it into a free one. You are one transformation away from change. Come and catch up.